Pictures are exciting. We've heard about the full glass, half empty, half full. Which one is it? Well, that discussion can be had for many hours, many years perhaps. Today, we'll have it for only 5 to 7 minutes. The great thing is that this simple picture says quite a bit. It can say up to 1,000 words. I suggest maybe more. Well, today, we will talk about the power of perspective and the ability to be able to understand information through perspective, trust, and relationships, friends. Fellow Toastmasters, Mr. Toastmaster, and our honored guests, today join me on the visual voyage of information. As we think about different pictures, we think about different visualizations, think about taking a step back. I'm talking about way back. Think about 138 times the distance of the sun from the earth. And when you think of that, you'll see this little dot that you can't really see on this picture. That is taken from a satellite that was traveling. And thinking about that little speck in our large universe and what's really going on there. We can see many different things. We see sports events if we zoom in. We see millions of people playing, and we've talked about basketball today. We also see amazing structures that have been built. We see the different victories that have been won. We also think of the atrocities that have been done. We're reminded of the sorrows and the heartache. We're also reminded of the joy and the happiness. These pictures are full of stories. We think about the accomplishments and the successes. We're also reminded of the ability to bring people together, to be united and strengthened. We also think of our geniuses, our inventors, our in talent, make us laugh, make us have joy, and make us have contemplation on the arts and the music. And through all of this, we also have thousands of pictures of events that aren't publicized. Perhaps our little family gatherings with our Christmas. Now this isn't mine, but you could imagine. These events are things that are captured all in that small little dot that you can't see. But it's really there. So how do we understand these things? How do we understand a picture like this? Sometimes in life, and we'll use this as an analogy, sometimes in life, we have to take a step back before we can really recognize and understand the picture. When we do that, we then are able to understand that it is something else. It's an apple stem. And I apologize for it not working correctly. So these things can be observed by simply taking a step back. Other times, we have to look at things and decipher what it is we're really seeing. Some of you will look at this and identify a duck. Others will wonder, where are you seeing a duck? Because I see a rabbit. And as you begin to look at both, you might be able to see them both kind of swooping back and forth. Sometimes the same picture, the same information can hold different meanings for different people or for the same person. And what do we focus on? This is where we begin to interact, and the concept of perspective gains meaning when we start to think about how we interact with one another. Now here's another picture. It looks a lot like a profile. a human face. Is there anything else there? All these other pictures have had other meanings. What about this one? Look hard. Can you find it? What else does it represent? I couldn't find this one until I had a friend who helped me out and rotated it. And it actually says liar. Now, of course, we need to think outside of ourselves or have help in understanding what we don't understand. It's hard to know what you don't know. And by having others help us, we're able to then achieve that. So this is why it's important. As we have a perspective, we have to trust. Trust somebody that we can then lean upon. Recognizing that trusting is happening regardless of if we're aware of it or not. We're trusting another person. Perhaps we're trusting in ourselves. Perhaps we trust in a higher power. But the important thing is there's trust in something. Sometimes we gain a person's perspective because we cannot understand it for ourselves. Is it 3 or is it 4? From one man's perspective, it truly is 3. And from another, it's truly 4. And so this is important for us to be able to understand those differences. And that takes the friend. So it's through this perspective, trusting, and having these relationships and friendships that we're better able to understand information throughout our lives. And when you think about the different perspectives that can be found, recognize that what you may be longing for is exactly what the other person is longing for. That perspective, the grass is always greener, is important to recognize. So be grateful for what you do have and recognize that the other person may also be grateful for what you have too. So when we come back to the glass, the question of whether or not the glass is half full or half empty, what is the real question? The real question is, what glass? We talk so much about the water. Do we remember the glass? Do we remember to be grateful for the glass? And as one little poet said, it doesn't matter if the glass is half empty or half full. Be grateful that you have a glass and there's something in it. Remember the perspective of friends. And their perspective can matter. So take that into important consideration. And lastly, remember that it's also about the glass being half full or empty, but it's about being able to share it with good friends. Fellow Toastmasters.